Welcome back to the Motivated Mind Zone. Glad to have you here. Today we're diving into a choice that, well, it really defines success, stress, and security for so many people. That deep-seated conflict between launching yourself into entrepreneurship or leaning into the structure of traditional employment. And this isn't just about picking a job title, is it? It's more like a fundamental lifestyle decision.
Oh, absolutely. It dictates so much. Your income, sure, but also your day-to-day, your mindset, how much control you feel you have.
Right. It's a seismic shift, potentially.
It really is a pivot point.
Yeah.
And, most discussions tend to fall into these kind of basic generalizations.
Yeah.
The classic risk versus reward thing.
Yeah, bit simplistic sometimes.
Exactly. So our mission in this deep dive is to maybe shatter that oversimplification a bit.
Yeah.
We need to explore the specific kind of granular trade-offs, things like ownership, creative input, building actual long-term assets.
So what's really interesting is the source material we're drawing from. It's actually, believe it or not, a guide originally designed for advanced English learners.
Right, which sounds maybe a bit niche.
You'd think so, but its value is how clearly and meticulously it structures this whole comparison. It provides this framework that's just incredibly useful, honestly, regardless of your background or language level.
That structure is key for us today. Lets us move beyond just anecdotes. My friend did this, and gives you a structured factor-by-factor breakdown.
Yeah, a real comparison.
We'll look at the money side, the structural stuff, the kind of mental shifts you need for each path.
So our mission today is pretty clear. Decode these trade-offs. Financial security, creative freedom, long-term fulfillment. We really want to arm you with that nuanced knowledge so you can absorb the pros and cons quickly.
And figure out which path really aligns with your definition of success, whatever that might be.
Exactly. Okay, let's get into it. Right, so before we dive into the consequences and the trade-offs, we need some really clear definitions. What are we actually talking about when we say entrepreneurship? What's the foundation?
Okay, so at its core, entrepreneurship is fundamentally about creating, developing, and running a new business, a venture.
Creating something new.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just making a profit, though that's usually the goal, obviously. The sources really highlight that the driving force is often recognizing some kind of unmet need, seeing a gap in the market.
Spotting an opportunity.
Yeah, and then actively problem solving to fill that gap. It's fundamentally an act of creation, of building something where there wasn't anything before.
So it's not just, say, opening a shop that already exists elsewhere. It's being the one who sees a different way, a solution maybe others haven't thought of.
Precisely. And tied right into that vision is an inherent element of risk-taking. You can't really separate the two.
It comes with the territory.
Absolutely. You can't be an entrepreneur without accepting some pretty profound risk. It requires you, the individual, to put not just your time on the line, but often your own money, your personal capital.
Right, your savings, maybe even your house.
Potentially, yeah. The classic example often used is transforming something intangible, like a passion, let's say, for artisan coffee, into a tangible, profitable asset, like a successful online coffee subscription business.
Ah, okay. Taking the passion and making it a real business.
The key is turning that creative vision into something commercially viable, a real venture, as the vocabulary puts it.
Got it. Turning passion into, well, growth potential. Equity, maybe valuation down the line, not just a paycheck.
That's often the long-term aim, yes.
Okay, so that's one side. Now let's flip the coin. Traditional employment. How do we define that in contrast?
Right. Traditional employment is, the classic 9-to-5 setup, working for an existing company, an organization.
The standard model for many.
Yeah. The defining characteristics here are really structure, predictability, and delegation. You get paid a fixed salary, usually reliable, you have a specific job title, your responsibilities are generally clearly defined, laid out by your employer.
So you know what's expected of you.
Largely, yes. And the primary motivation for choosing this path, as the sources often point out, revolves around that desire for security, stability.
Makes sense, that predictable paycheck.
Exactly. The individual often prefers that known exchange.
Yeah.
You put in focused effort on your tasks, and you get a known compensation package in return, often with benefits like health insurance, retirement plans, things that aren't guaranteed when you start your own thing.
Right. Less volatility compared to a startup, maybe.
That's the crucial difference, really. So if you synthesize it, the entrepreneur is focused on building their own structure, driving their own vision, and absorbing all the risk that comes with that.
They're the architect and the builder.
Pretty much. Whereas the employee is focused on executing specific tasks effectively within an existing structure, contributing to a larger goal, but without carrying the entire weight of the organization's survival on their shoulders.
Okay, builder versus executor. That's a clear way to frame it.
And once you establish that dichotomy, the implications for how you spend your time, how you make money, even how you think about problems, well, they become incredibly pronounced.
Yeah, I can see that. It affects everything. Okay, let's move directly into the, let's say, the tangible realities living under each system, starting with the big one. The risk profile. We know entrepreneurship is high risk, but let's break that down. What does that actually mean day to day?
Well, for the entrepreneur, the risk is really acute and personal, especially in the early stages, the nascent stages of the venture, as they say. You're risking literal personal capital.
Your own money.
Yeah, savings, maybe you've remortgaged your house, borrowed from family, and definitely you're risking time, huge amounts of time that you can never get back. If the business fails, that loss is immediate. It's real.
And it hits you directly.
Directly. Plus, there's often a reputational risk, too. Failure can sometimes impact your ability to get funding or find partners for the next idea. It's not just financial.
That makes sense. It's like you're investing in the system versus being the system. For the person in traditional employment, the risk feels fundamentally different, right? Lower, maybe more buffered.
Significantly lower and definitely buffered. You're not risking your life savings in the same way. Now, obviously, you could lose your job.
Layoffs happen, companies go under.
Exactly. But the nature of that risk is different. It's often external, tied to economic shifts, industry downturns, company performance, not usually tied to a single personal decision you made, like sinking 50 grand into inventory that didn't sell.
So the employee faces career risk, maybe needing to find a new job, but the entrepreneur faces something more. Existential, financial, and personal risk all rolled into one.
Precisely. And the source material highlights this. Even if an employee is made redundant, there's often some kind of safety net, internal or external. Severance pay, maybe unemployment benefits.
Things to tide you over.
Right. Things the founder of a company that just collapsed usually doesn't have access to in the same way.
Okay, that's a stark difference. Let's tackle income potential now. This is often the big lure, right? The reason people consider taking that leap. We hear unlimited potential for entrepreneurs. But what does that actually look like?
Well, the potential is theoretically exponential because the entrepreneur owns the equity. They own a piece or all of the company. They're not just paid a salary based on hours worked. Their wealth grows if the company's value grows, if they achieve genuine scalability.
Scalability,
Meaning the ability to grow revenue, grow the business really efficiently without your costs increasing at the same rate. If you can crack that.
Then the sky is the limit, potentially.
That's the idea. The wealth potential can be enormous because you're building an asset, something you can eventually sell or take public.
Okay, and this is a big but, I imagine the caveat is huge uncertainty, right? And fluctuation.
Massive uncertainty. You might spend the first year, 2 years, maybe longer, taking a minimal salary or maybe even no salary at all.
Plowing everything back in.
Constantly reinvesting any little bit of profit back into growth. It takes immense financial discipline. You have to be comfortable operating in the red, sometimes for extended periods.
Wow. Okay, contrast that with traditional employment.
Traditional employment offers that fixed, predictable compensation. You get your paycheck, your W-2 salary. It's stable, it's reliable. It makes personal budgeting much, much simpler.
You know what's coming in.
You can count on that money hitting your bank account every 2 weeks or every month. The trade-off, though, is the cap. Your income is ultimately limited by the structure.
The pay grade for your role.
Right. Your position's pay grade, the company's internal salary bands, maybe the overall ceiling for that industry. You might get bonuses, maybe some stock options in bigger companies, but the growth curve tends to be more linear. It's not usually exponential like a successful startup could be.
So the trade-off is crystal clear there. Potential high stakes, high reward volatility versus the peace of mind that comes with stability and consistency.
That's a great way to put it. Consistency is a key word for traditional employment.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to the day-to-day operational reality, work hours and work-life balance. This is where entrepreneurship often sounds, well, frankly, like a bit of a nightmare, especially early on.
It's a profound commitment. There's no way around it. The very nature of starting and growing a business demands long, irregular hours. We're talking nights, weekends, holidays often get sacrificed.
The work is never really done.
Not in the early days. Because the success or failure feels directly linked to how much effort, how much sheer resourcefulness you pour into it, you almost feel like you have this time debt to the business until it can stand on its own feet.
That feeling of obligation must be intense compared to the employee.
Who generally adheres to more structured hours. The typical 9 to 5, Monday to Friday is still pretty common, even with flexible work arrangements becoming more popular.
And crucially, when they clock out.
They're generally done for the day, mentally and physically. That structure usually delivers a much more predictable, manageable work-life balance. And that's a powerful psychological benefit for a lot of people.
Yeah, being able to switch off.
Absolutely. And that predictability leads directly into the idea of stability. For the entrepreneur, stability is, well, it's a moving target. Their financial stability, their professional stability, it's all tied directly to the business's current performance. Cash flow, client wins, market shifts.
Every downturn feels personal.
Every lost client can feel like an immediate personal crisis because the stakes are so high.
Whereas for the employee, that short-term stability, the steady paycheck, the benefits acts like a safety net, doesn't it?
It's a powerful buffer.
Yeah.
Yes, external things can still happen, economic shifts, corporate restructuring, layoffs, but the employee's usually cushioned, at least for a while, maybe by the organization itself through severance or just having that regular income while they look for something else. It gives them time to react.
So again, the nature of the risk is fundamentally different.
Fundamentally different. An employee might mitigate risk by upskilling, getting more qualifications. The entrepreneur has to mitigate risk by, say, diversifying revenue streams or expanding into new markets, which is often a much, much harder and more complex task.
Okay, let's move to something that often drives people towards entrepreneurship. Creative freedom. This feels like a major psychological differentiator.
It's often cited as the primary driver, yeah. For many who decide to take the plunge, as the idiom goes, into starting their own venture.
So what does that freedom look like?
It's potentially the entrepreneur's greatest advantage. Total autonomy. They're the boss. They set the mission, they define the brand, they decide the execution plan.
They call the shots.
Completely. They have control over the creative output, the decision-making, the whole vision for the future. There's no committee, usually, to approve their ideas, no layers of management to navigate in the same way.
Okay, that sounds pretty appealing. But hang on, doesn't that level of freedom sometimes lead to, I don't know, decision fatigue? You have to decide everything, from the big strategy down to like the color of the logo and the details of the health insurance plan.
Oh, it absolutely can. That's the flip side. The sheer volume of decisions can be overwhelming. But for many, that trade-off is still worth it.
Because the alternative.
In traditional employment, your freedom is generally much more constrained. You have to work within the company's structure, follow its guidelines, adhere to established brand standards. You're executing someone else's vision, ultimately.
You might have creative input within your team or department.
Sure, you might have some scope, but you're always operating within a pre-existing box, which naturally limits the potential scope of your individual impact.
And that links directly to the next point, doesn't it? The responsibility load.
Directly. For the entrepreneur, the responsibility is total. Success, failure, legal compliance, employee morale, paying the bills, it all lands on their shoulders.
And that sounds like enormous pressure.
It is an enormous high-pressure burden that requires incredible stamina, resilience. But for those who really seek maximum influence and control, that weight can also be incredibly empowering. Every win feels like their win. Every strategic move is theirs to make.
Whereas the employee's responsibility is more contained.
Delegated and compartmentalized, exactly. They're accountable for their specific area, maybe hitting sales targets, delivering a project on time, writing a report, but they're not carrying the full legal and financial weight of the entire company.
The pressure is focused, not spread across everything.
Right. And that shared responsibility, that ability to focus on your specific role, is often cited as a key reason people prefer the structured environment. It's less overwhelming.
Okay, one last structural point here. The career path itself, how does that look different?
Radically different. The entrepreneur's path is completely self-directed. They have to carve their own way, as the saying goes. There's no map.
You make it up as you go along.
To a large extent, yes. It requires huge self-motivation, discipline to set your own goals, define your own milestones. There's no manual, no boss telling you what the next step is.
Whereas for the employee, the path is usually much more structured.
Typically, yes. There's often a predefined ladder. You start as junior, then senior, maybe team lead, manager, director, VP, whatever the structure is.
There are performance reviews.
Structured opportunities for promotion, often specific training programs defined by HR. You usually have a clearer idea of what metrics you need to hit, what skills you need to develop to get to the next level. It offers clearer, often more achievable short-term targets.
Right, a roadmap, essentially. Okay, so we've laid out the big structural and financial trade-offs. Now let's dig into some of the more intangible factors, the mindset differences, the environment, how these paths actually shape your daily reality, and, well, how you think. Let's start with the core mindsets required.
Yeah, this is crucial. We're really looking at two fundamentally different mental operating systems here. The entrepreneurial mindset is inherently, well, visionary seems like the right word.
Big picture thinkers.
Exactly. They tend to thrive on ambiguity. Uncertainty isn't necessarily seen as a threat, but more as an opportunity space, a place for innovation. They're generally comfortable with calculated risk, and they often view failure not as an endpoint, but as necessary feedback, data to learn from.
And they have to be generalists, right?
Absolutely, especially at the start. They have to wear many hats, handling everything from sales to finance to product development.
Okay, contrast that with the employee mindset.
The employee mindset is often more task-oriented, focused on efficiency, on execution within their specific area, on deep specialization sometimes. They tend to thrive on predictability and excel as part of a team, working within clearly defined boundaries.
They prefer perfecting one thing over juggling 10.
Often, yes. They might prefer to be the expert engineer or the really effective project manager rather than trying to manage the entire company's operations.
There's a good analogy in the source material, isn't there? About maps.
Ah, yes, the cartographer versus the ship captain. I like that one. The entrepreneur is like the cartographer, forging a new path, drawing the map, constantly adapting it as they encounter new terrain.
They're figuring it out as they go.
Right. The employee is more like the ship captain, navigating a well-charted route, focused on getting the ship efficiently and safely along that existing path, using the map someone else drew.
That makes a lot of sense. And that difference in mindset flows directly into how people feel about ownership stakes, doesn't it?
Absolutely. For the entrepreneur, having full ownership or significant equity fundamentally changes their motivation. It's their creation, their potential asset.
Too personal.
Deeply personal. They're invested far beyond just their salary, if they're even taking one. They're building capital, equity. And this long-term view often compels them to reinvest profits, sacrifice short-term gains, make decisions for the long-term health of the business.
Whereas the traditional employee, even if they're really dedicated and doing a great job,
They're still working for the business. Now, they might participate in things like profit sharing or get stock options, especially in larger companies, which give them some skin in the game.
But it's different from owning the whole thing.
It's fundamentally different. They lack that deep personal ownership of the core entity itself. Their primary investment is usually their time and expertise, not necessarily their personal capital in the same way. And that naturally alters the decision-making calculus. They're focused on their role, their department's goals, not necessarily the company's entire balance sheet 24/7.
Right. And this difference really plays out dramatically in the learning curve you mentioned.
Oh, hugely. For the entrepreneur, learning is basically nonstop. It's constant, it's self-directed, and it's often trial by fire.
Learning on the fly.
Totally. When they hit a problem they don't understand, maybe it's a complex new tax law or a sudden shift in a marketing platform, they have to figure it out now, instantly. And the cost of getting it wrong can be really high, personally and for the business. Their education is continuous, demanding, and often quite unforgiving,
Ouch. Compared to traditional employment.
which typically offers a far more structured learning environment. Companies often invest quite heavily in formalized on-the-job training, mentorship programs, structured professional development pathways.
Workshops, courses.
Exactly. This learning is often slower, more controlled, and crucially, it's usually paid for by the employer, not out of the individual's pocket.
So the contrast is stark.
Yeah.
Costly, high stakes, figure it out yourself, learning versus structured, company-funded, guided learning.
Both valuable, absolutely, but they cater to very different needs and learning styles.
Okay, let's talk about networking. People network in both paths, obviously, but the focus is different, isn't it?
Radically different focus, even if the activity looks similar. The entrepreneur's networking is predominantly outward-looking and strategic.
What do you mean by outward?
They're building relationships with potential clients, customers, investors, suppliers, strategic partners, anyone outside the company who can help fuel growth, provide funding, open doors.
It's about growing the business externally.
Exactly. Every handshake, every coffee meeting is often evaluated through the lens of, how does this help the venture succeed and expand?
And the traditional employees networking.
Is primarily inward-focused. They're building relationships within the organization, with colleagues on their team, people in other departments, their supervisors, senior leaders.
Why? What's the goal there?
Usually the goal is career advancement within that existing structure, gaining visibility for their work, finding mentors, learning about internal opportunities, maybe positioning themselves for promotion or a lateral move to a different team. They're playing a defined internal game.
Got it. Building alliances inside the walls.
In a sense, yes. And finally, let's touch on the workplace environment itself. This really dictates the rhythm of daily life.
Big difference here too, I imagine.
Huge. The entrepreneur, valuing that autonomy we talked about, often has incredible flexibility. Their office can be anywhere.
The classic coffee shop entrepreneur.
Or their kitchen table, or a co-working space, or nowadays increasingly just fully remote. They often have geographical freedom, working wherever they feel most productive.
As long as the work gets done.
Pretty much. Whereas the traditionally employed individual is often, though not always, physically tied to a specific location.
The office, the factory floor, the retail store, the lab.
Wherever the work physically is. This often requires a daily commute, adherence to specific office hours or attendance policies. It means sacrificing some of that geographical flexibility in exchange for, perhaps, a dedicated, structured workspace and the benefits of in-person collaboration.
So freedom of location versus a defined place of work. Another key difference. Okay, we've explored these differences pretty deeply now, structural, financial, mental. Let's try and connect them back to some practical realities, starting with what actually fuels people down these different paths. The driving motivation.
Right, what gets them out of bed in the morning. For the entrepreneur, the motivation seems overwhelmingly internal, meaning it's often driven by a real passion for the product or service they're creating, a deeply held personal vision they want to bring to life, and that immense satisfaction that comes from having absolute autonomy and control over their work.
They want to build their thing their way.
Exactly. There's often a strong desire to create impact, to solve a problem they care about, to see their specific vision realized in the world. They're usually very self-motivated, driven by a desire for mastery and creation.
And for the employee, is the motivation different?
It's often more external, or at least balanced differently. Key drivers tend to be the security of that fixed, reliable salary, the comprehensive benefits package we mentioned, health, retirement.
Choose of mind factors.
Definitely. Long-term job security is often a big one. And also the external validation and recognition that can come from career advancement, getting promotions, raises, positive performance reviews within that defined hierarchy.
So internal drive versus external rewards and security, broadly speaking.
That's a reasonable generalization, yes, though obviously individuals are complex. But these divergent motivations really dictate the long game, particularly the exit strategies.
How you eventually leave or transition out.
Exactly. And this is where that difference between building an asset versus earning compensation becomes really stark.
Okay, so what's the typical long game for an entrepreneur?
The entrepreneur's long game is almost always focused on building a valuable, sellable asset. The goal is often a successful exit.
Meaning getting bought out.
That's a common one, yes. An acquisition by a larger company. Or maybe a merger with another business. Or perhaps achieving enough scalability and putting systems in place so they can step back from the intense day-to-day grind, maybe take on a board role, while the business continues to operate and generate value without their constant involvement.
So building something that has value beyond just them being there.
That's the key. They're building something potentially liquid, a capital asset they can sell.
In the employee's exit strategy.
Is typically more traditional. Conventional resignation to move to another job, perhaps climbing the ladder at a different company. Or eventually, retirement.
Based on savings, pensions.
Right. Retirement funded by savings accumulated over their career, maybe company pension plans, Social Security, 401k. Their value to the organization is tied to their function while they are employed. When they leave, they take their skills, but they don't usually take a sellable piece of the company with them in the same way an owner does.
Okay, that distinction between building an asset and earning compensation is really powerful. Let's make this even more concrete with the case study dialogue the source uses Emma and Liam. Liam represents the entrepreneur, right?
Yes, Liam is the classic example. He started his own digital marketing agency specifically because he felt stifled.
By what?
By the bureaucracy, the layers of approval, the lack of creative control in his previous corporate job. He was willing to accept the initial financial volatility, the crazy long hours.
Because the freedom was worth it to him.
Exactly. He valued having control over his professional output, his vision, more than he valued the security of a guaranteed paycheck at that point in his life. He felt he needed to take the plunge to feel genuinely fulfilled professionally.
And Emma represents the other side.
Emma represents the employee perspective very clearly. She's happy in her traditional role. She values the structure, the predictable hours that let her plan her life outside work, the solid benefit package, the long-term stability her company offers.
And she recognizes entrepreneurship isn't for her.
Explicitly. She acknowledges it takes a certain personality type, a tolerance for risk and uncertainty that she just doesn't feel she has. And the source presents this as a perfectly valid, smart choice for her.
Right, it's not saying one is better than the other.
Not at all. And the crucial insight from their dialogue, I think, is that these choices aren't necessarily permanent. People change.
Life circumstances change.
Yeah. Priorities evolve. Emma even jokes, doesn't she, about maybe switching sides someday. It reminds us that a career path isn't set in stone. It's a series of choices you make based on your needs, your values, your circumstances at different points in your life.
That's a really important nuance. It's not a life sentence either way. So throughout this discussion, we've naturally woven in a lot of that more sophisticated vocabulary from the source material, which I think has really helped deepen the conversation.
Yes, using precise language helps clarify the concepts.
Definitely. So maybe let's just quickly consolidate some of those key terms, especially for listeners who appreciate learning this kind of nuanced vocabulary, reinforce their meaning and how they apply.
Good idea. Precision in language allows for precision in thought, right? Let's start with probably the most central concept for many founders, autonomy.
Right. Autonomy. We said it means self-governance, independence, basically being your own boss,
Yeah.
making the key decisions.
And we saw how entrepreneurs really value that autonomy, often prioritizing it over things like predictable schedules or fitting into a corporate structure.
Okay, next up, venture.
Venture. We define this basically as a business project or undertaking that inherently involves risk. It kind of separates a serious business attempt from just, say, a casual side hustle.
It implies investment and uncertainty.
Exactly. So you might say, her new venture in green tech successfully secured seed funding. It signals a serious, risk-bearing enterprise.
Got it. Then, crucially for growth, scalability.
Ah, yes, scalability. This is the business's ability to grow efficiently, to increase revenue substantially without your costs, especially administrative or operational costs, increasing at the same painful rate.
So you can handle more customers, more output, without the whole thing collapsing.
Precisely. High scalability is really the key to unlocking that potential for exponential income growth we talked about. An example sentence might be, we analyzed the app's scalability before planning the international launch.
Okay. And on the employee side, a word that came up was consistency.
Yes, consistency, meaning steadiness, predictability, reliability. This often applies to the paycheck, the work hours, the expectations of the role. It's a major draw for traditional employment.
You know what to expect.
Largely, yes. For instance, traditional jobs in established industries often offer more consistency in terms of workflow and compensation.
All right. Then a word vital for entrepreneurs, innovation.
Innovation. Simply put, creating new ideas, new methods, new products that differentiate you. It's really the lifeblood of competitive entrepreneurship, isn't it?
You have to keep innovating, or someone else will.
Especially when competing against established players with more resources, you need that edge. So, continuous innovation is essential for startups to disrupt existing markets.
And finally, a goal for everyone, hopefully, job satisfaction.
Yes, job satisfaction, just meaning contentment with one's work, the feeling that your work is meaningful, engaging, rewarding. And the analysis rightly notes this is often valued just as much as, or even more than, salary. It's that ultimate internal measure of career success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, beyond those specific nouns, the guide also highlighted some great idioms and phrasal verbs that really capture the feeling of making these career moves. The first one was, take the plunge.
Right, take the plunge. It perfectly captures that feeling of making a bold, decisive, maybe slightly scary leap into something new and risky.
Like quitting the steady job to launch your venture.
Exactly. It implies commitment and acceptance of risk.
Then, the essential entrepreneurial mindset summarized. Think outside the box.
Think outside the box, meaning to be creative, unconventional, to challenge assumptions. It's almost a requirement to stay competitive, especially when you're the smaller player trying to find an advantage.
And the reality of early-stage entrepreneurship, wear many hats.
Wear many hats. Yeah, this captures that need for the founder or the early team to juggle multiple, often very different roles and responsibilities simultaneously. Marketing 1 hour, finance the next, customer support after that.
The ultimate generalist role.
Especially in a startup, yes.
Okay, and finally, 2 key phrasal verbs about the process of building. Set up and scale up.
Right. Set up simply means to start or establish something new. She set up her own consulting firm after years in the corporate world. It's the initial act of creation.
And scale up.
Scale up means to significantly expand a business that's already established and showing promise, making it much bigger.
Taking it to the next level.
Exactly. Often involves expanding operations, maybe moving into new markets, hiring a lot more people. After securing Series A funding, the company began to scale up its international operations.
Great. So mastering this kind of vocabulary really allows you to talk about this whole entrepreneurship versus employment choice with much more nuance and precision.
Definitely. It moves the conversation beyond just risk versus safety into the actual mechanics and feelings involved. Hashtag tag outro.
Well, we have spent a good chunk of time really breaking down these core differences, haven't we? Between the builder, the entrepreneur, and the executor, the traditional employee.
We really have. And the trade-offs are significant, running pretty deep into personal values, I think.
Absolutely. On one hand, you might trade incredible control and that potential for huge growth.
But the price is often crippling uncertainty, immense pressure, and that total responsibility we talked about.
And on the other hand, you trade stability, a clear structure, maybe a more defined career path.
But you often give up significant potential upside in terms of income and definitely limit your creative freedom compared to being the boss.
So the ultimate success, it seems, isn't about choosing the quote-unquote best path, because there isn't one. It's about finding the right fit.
The right fit for your individual personality, your tolerance for risk, your current lifestyle needs, and maybe most importantly, your own personal definition of what fulfillment actually looks like.
Yeah. And to help with that self-reflection, that internal deep dive, let's maybe leave you, the listener, with those powerful questions the source material uses to wrap things up.
Yeah, these are good. They really force you to look inward and figure out what your non-negotiables are.
Okay, first one. How do you truly define professional success for yourself? Is it primarily about money, maximizing wealth?
Or is it more measured by the level of autonomy you have day to day? The freedom to choose your projects, your hours, your direction? Or perhaps it's about the impact you make building something lasting, solving a problem you care about?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Okay, second. Which work style genuinely suits your well-being better? Do you thrive with structure, predictability, clear boundaries between work and life?
Or do you actually feel more energized in a more flexible, maybe slightly chaotic, self-directed environment where you set the pace, even if the lines get blurry?
Be honest with yourself on that one. And finally, the thought experiment that cuts through the immediate financial pressures. If money were truly no object,
Yeah, take the money off the table for a second.
which lifestyle would you sincerely choose? The constant challenge, innovation, and yes, stress of being the builder, or the stable execution, teamwork, and delegated responsibility of being the dedicated employee within a larger system?
Your gut reaction to that question probably reveals a lot about your deepest vocational values.
It really does. That fundamental difference we identified, the visionary risk taker who sees the world as a set of problems to be solved, versus the task-oriented team player who sees the world as a structure to be optimized within.
Which one of those resonates more deeply with you? And how does adopting that mindset shape not just how you work, but how you approach your entire life?
That's the ultimate deep dive, isn't it? The one into your own motivations and values. We really hope this structured comparison we've walked through today helps you on that journey.
Keep learning, keep reflecting on what matters most to you.
And we'll catch you on the next deep dive.